All right, now this is the entire site of Qumran that you're looking at. Now, before we turn our attention to Qumran and what you see here, let's look in that direction. And you see the Dead Sea, obviously, right? Right above it, the wooded area. To the left of that is another wooded area, kind of off the shores of the Dead Sea. That's Mt.Nebo. And you just think about Moses standing there, looking into the Holy Land, having a biblical journey. Yep. Kind of interesting, you know. Moses standing there, the Lord would have shown him, I would think, this is this and this is that and this is that. And he would have maybe shown him where he would meet Jesus, one of the mountains, the Transfiguration. Yep. 1,000 years afterwards, who knows? Now, Qumran is a very small site. It's nothing big. And remember, you got 200 people, mostly men. At least that's what the research says. Maybe all men, who ran their daily activities in some buildings and in the fields, and then slept in caves. Now, they found 11 caves with scrolls in them. Hundreds of caves are here. Those are natural caves. Some are man-made. We'll show you those, a couple. But mostly man-made. Dolomite limestone is the natural formation. And those were the bedrooms. They lived in those caves. Now, caves 1 and 2, you cannot see them from here. They're further down. It's not an easy hike to get to them. The easiest ones to see and to get to, cave 6 and cave 11. See the one in the distance? You try to take the hike, it's about an hour. Yep. I know it looks close, but it's about an hour. You've been there. Yeah. And if it rains, it floods. You see the clear signs of flash flooding. Sharp, pointed, wet rocks and dark sometimes. And this is your bedroom. So 12 o'clock or so you have to go to bed. Say goodnight and you start hiking. And then in the morning, 6 o'clock or so, good morning, and you start hiking back down to here. Now, if we look, just to kind of go around the site, some sheepfold, they raise their own animals, obviously. Beyond the bridge, there's another complex, couple of rooms. That's the treasury of the sect. And again, everything was owned communally, but they found 560 coins. This was not a poor sect. I mean, they had a lot of sympathizers. You know, strange attracts. Yep. Especially if it's religiously strange. That attracts a lot of people. And cults attract. They do. And weird attracts. And even if you don't want to lead that life, you saw the movie, they had a lot of sympathy, a lot of supporters. People would support them financially. And so they found this here. Now this is called the scriptorium down below. Script. Now you notice that a lot of these names are monastery names because the organization that did the archaeological digs between 1968 1947, 48 until Father Roland Deveau passed away was the École Biblique. And that's a French Catholic institution in Jerusalem. So they used monastery names. So scriptorium, that's where they wrote the scrolls. That's where they would have, you know, study sessions. And the scrolls were produced simply for the use of the sect, not to publish, not to sell, not to lease out. And some of the material they had, some of the literature was restricted to certain people even within the group. In other words, not everyone had access to everything. It goes by seniority. So 2 rooms, 2 floors, upper floor collapsed. They found a writing table in it, made out of wood and was plastered. And then they found ink jars, and ink was a mixture of olive oil, water, gum from trees, and then ash. Now, interesting research also done on the scrolls found some spelling mistakes in some of these scrolls. Now, what that says is that it wasn't someone copying from one scroll to another, but rather someone reading and someone writing, and that's how they made spelling mistakes. Now, the next room over, the one that's oriented right, left, or east, west, we're going to walk through those. in a minute, is the refectory or dining room. That's where they had their meals. Now you'll notice it's a longitudinal sort of room because they would sit, you notice the movie, in a U shape, triclinium way of sitting. And then they had the signs on the right, in the room on the right. You'll see the sign there says pottery storage. That's like your kitchen cabinet. That's where they kept their pottery vessels. And then beyond that, and again, we'll walk down past it, there's a large working area where they found 100,000 date pits. Now, why would you have 100,000 date pits in one place? That's the hangout, you eat dates and you... No, not exactly. It was a working, it's a lot of date pits. It was a working area. They obviously produced date honey. Then you come around and you see what the S shape, there's a kiln, an oven for baking pottery, and then everything else, all these other structures, square, like here, rectangular, you see it to the left of it, water cisterns to collect as much rainwater as you can, and then ritual immersion baths, and they connected them with aqueducts. Now, these were used just for ritual cleansing. They had fresh water springs nearby. They got water for drinking and cooking and cleaning from those. But this was only used for ritual cleansing. So you see, it's a very small site. But that's all they needed. Just a few buildings to run their daily activities from, and a few caves to live in. And that's what they had. Now, the most famous of all the caves, the iconic image of Qumran, is cave number 4. And cave number 4 is right where those canopies are. We're going to go look at it in a minute. 4 and 5, but 4 is the most famous, okay?
Real quick, biblically, when Jesus was alive, obviously there were several different types of sects. The Pharisees and the Sadducees he went against. Both of them got rebukes, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. The Pharisees were religious and they believed in a resurrection. They believed in angels. The Sadducees did not believe in a resurrection. They didn't believe in angels. They believed in political thing. They believe in getting pretty much your position on earth. And so they were very, very Hellenistic. They leaned towards Rome. They leaned towards some of the things that were more politically oriented. But the Essenes were also there in Jesus' day. And Jesus never said anything about the Essenes, which leads some people to believe erroneously that Jesus was an Essene. He was not. We talked about John the Baptist, and we kind of talked back and forth about it. There's a theory that says that John the Baptist had Essene influence. You saw it in the movie. We don't know that for sure. John the Baptist did relate to the Essenes in their asceticism and being in the wilderness and being alone. He did not relate to their message. Their message was a cultic message. It was a very strange message. And by the way, Jesus would never have been an Essene. We talked to George. I told George, I said, can you imagine Jesus waking up in the morning and facing the sun? That's Mithra. That's a sun god. So he wouldn't be that. It goes totally against what he did. But it does have a big impact on religious life, because it says that they're disagreeing and they're disgruntled with the religious institution that's running the temple. Now, just because you're disgruntled with the religious institution running the temple doesn't mean you have a better system. So their system was almost like a pendulum to the opposite effect. And so the Essenes are not mentioned in your Bible, but there may be some influence. Definitely the apostles knew about him. Definitely John knew about him, and maybe even had some type of interaction with them, because he did preach in the wilderness. And yes, Jesus did know about them also.
There's something about, and you can Google that, look it up if you wish, something that's a little vague, and I think that's the only thing about the whole discovery here that's a little unclear. The École Biblique, the people who found the scrolls, claim that there was a little piece of scroll that came from cave number 7, Q7. I can't remember the exact reference to it, but if you Google it, there is something there that looks like a verse from the book of Mark talking about the multiplication account. Mm-hmm. Now remember, the book of Mark was the first one to be written, maybe early 60s, and this sect lasted until 68 AD. So they did, there was overlap.
Go ahead.
What I'm trying to say here is that maybe some of these sect members were either trying to convert or already Christians, Judeo-Christians, or maybe they heard about this new teaching and they were trying to see what it is. Of course, the official authority in Israel deny that something like that exists, but the École Biblique even have pictures of it online. So look it up. It's kind of interesting. Okay, I don't know which one is which now. Oh, this one.
I agree with that 100%. Let me tell you why. I've gone to a couple of BARs that were specifically on the interpretation of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and one of the things that happened is they really do believe that these Essenes may have actually, some of them may have actually believed in Christ, and actually, and again, they will deny it, but some of it says that maybe even some of them had gone to Masada. There was a cave found there where there were pig bones found and human bones right before. You remember you were sending up in that cable car? Well, right before you get to the wall, to the left-hand side is cave 1008, and some of the ones that originally worked on the excavations found pig bones and human bones. They thought they were the monks that had settled there in the 4th century, but they were not. They carbon dated them back to the 1st century. So it's quite possible that some of the Essenes did become Christians and understood that Christ was the Messiah, and then fled, fearing for their lives from the Romans when they came down to quash the revolt. So I agree. And again, if you want to read them, the Dead Sea Scrolls, by the way, they're still being interpreted. It's unbelievable. There's a lot of controversy on some of it. Some of it's very clear. But what they've done now is they've taken, a lot of them are little tiny fragments that have been sold. So they now computerized those fragments, and they're putting them together with computers so they can make some, because there's thousands and thousands of fragments of these scrolls. So it's an ongoing study.
Remember the casement of the scrolls in Ezekiel 37 that we mentioned when we were on top of Masada? Well, they would have gone, like Pastor mentioned. All right, we're going to walk down and on to K4.
Very good.
Huh?
Yeah, but it's way up.
So it's higher than these mountains.
Yeah, much higher. Dan Hills are very much higher.
So
2,800.
Those are Transjordan.
Yes.
What you hear, Renee?
Where's Sinai?
Sinai is down that way.
It's further down.
Yeah, it's to the west though. We're on the east side.
It's not even part of it.
No.
Anything else you want to say about this, Brother Mark?
That's it. We're good.
This doesn't become Israel until 1967, 20 years after the scrolls were found. So, Bedouins found in August of 1952 14,000 pieces of scrolls. Now, that's a lot of scrolls, little fragments. And then the archaeologists arrived and found another 1,000. So now you have 15,000 little pieces of scroll. You don't know what went with what. You don't know what the outcome is. The edges are sharp. It's just a big pile of scrolls mixed with all kinds of birds, droppings, and debris, and what have you. Not an easy job to do. It took them 50 years to get it done. 2001, they finally published 500.
Takes an hour.
So out of 800 plus in 11 caves, 530.